Hey folks, somebody asked me about what gear to get for ocean kayak fishing, and so I'll just go over what gears I use. This is just my own list. Everyone's different. The first one you want to get is pretty important, which is a dry suit. And the one I have is an NRS. It's a SAR Extreme dry suit. It's a really good one. I really like it. And it's, for safety reasons, you definitely want a dry suit. The second thing, life jacket. This is pretty obvious. And again, I got an NRS. I really like NRS. They're pretty much bulletproof. They're really reliable, extremely durable. And also a knife with quick release. So that way you can cut something in an emergency situation, okay? You're also gonna need a VHF radio, and this is the one I use most. It's a Uniden, and the thing about the Uniden, this one, it's very compact, super easy to use. The on-off button is right here, and you got your squelch button up here, so it's just easy to reach, easy to set. And the Uniden is the one I recommend. I really like them. I got 2 of them. I like them so much. They're just reliable. They're really durable. Of course, I've used other brands as well. Standard Horizon. These are good too. They're pretty reliable, pretty durable, and they're a little bit more bulky than Uniden. One thing about setting the squelch on this, the squelch button's right here, and then you just toggle the up and down button to set the squelch. And then for this one, the squelch is on the side right here, and then you just press it, and then you toggle the channel up and down to set the squelch. And I just prefer the Uniden because the button is just right here. It goes up and down, and that's it. It's just one-hand operation. It's very, very simple. All right. For the Standard Horizon, it just takes a couple more steps. So it's not really a big deal, but I just prefer the Uniden. This model is HX870. Now for this one, you need, I guess, what's called an MMSI number. I'm not really sure what that is. You have to get you have to apply with the FCC. I applied and got it. I think it's just it's kind of like the license plate for a car. I'm not sure if I'm making that analogy right, but when you fill out the application, it asks for your home port. I don't know, I just put on like Depot Bay, and then your vessel ID, location, and so on. Okay, so it kind of, when you call the Coast Guard knows who you are based on your MMSI. So this one will not work until you apply for the number from the FCC. This one, HX300, you do not need an MMSI. Okay, same with the Uniden. You do not need an MMSI. So these are good to go, plug and play. Same with the Uniden. The HX870, you need to apply for the number. All right, so moving on. Scissors. I know, like, it sounds kind of weird why you need scissors when you're kayak fishing. But I use these a lot to cut my braid line, and also to cut the gills from rockfish. These are Kai, they're Japanese brand. They are insanely sharp, very durable. I've used other scissors for fishing, and they rust a lot. But with Kai, they are pretty much bomb-proof. I've used this in salt water for many years, no issues. And they are very good with rust. They're much, much more durable. I got quite a bit of them. And, I have probably about 12, 13 more somewhere around the house in my backpack, tackle boxes, tackle bags. So I highly recommend the Kai scissors, okay? Due to their durability, they're pretty reliable. And I'll put a link in the video description if you want it. So for braid cutters, I do use a brand called Cuda. Let me grab them. These right here, they do have the shorter one, but I prefer this longer one, the bigger one. It's just easier to cut, easier to handle. And these are also very good for even salt water. I've used these in salt water. Just rinse it off afterward, no problem. With most scissors, even they touch water, they rust, especially at the joints. Not, I guess at the hinge right here. But these ones, they're pretty nice. So this is how many I got as backup. Plus I have a bunch more in my tackle box of tackle bags. I highly recommend the Cuda for cutting braid line. All right, they're just awesome, durable, reliable. The thing about what makes these scissors so good, the reason I like them, because it's the hinges. It's always the hinges. I've used many scissors in the past where the hinges just seize up, lock up, even during a trip. You know, they're brand new. I use it and somehow salt water gets on it and they just seize up. But these do not. They just keep on working. So these are really good. All right, next things are pliers. You've probably seen these a lot. And I don't use these. This is probably my 7th or 8th pair of pliers. I don't recommend them. They suck. They're terrible. They rust very easily. You come within 5 miles of water, these things rust. After a while, I began looking for better pliers or better things to take out the hook, better tool to take out hooks from fish, and I began getting these. These are stainless steel. They're called hook outs, and I got several of them, and I use these all the time now. These I've used in salt water for many years. They do rust a little bit, as you can see, but they keep on working. They're really awesome. They're much better than the pliers when removing hooks from the fish's mouth. And this is a Berkeley brand. I do not recommend the Berkeley brand. As you can see, the handle, it's kind of short. The travel is very short. And if you look at some other brand, see the handle, the travel is much further, okay? And so it's able to get a better grip on the hook. These, yeah, you can get a good grip on it, but this one is much more firm because of the longer travel on the handle. So don't get the Berkeley, get these. I will put a link in the video description. So these hook outs, I recommend these over any pliers. All right, moving on. One way to keep your fish is with a stringer, something like this. And you just unclip it like this, hook that through the gills and the mouth, and then just close it back up. And then I tie a rope to the stringer, all right, with a quick release. This is called a decoy clip or a long line clip. They ask many names, but it looks like that. You press it and it hooks onto that loop, okay, tied to your kayak. Now, I used to use these before, but I don't anymore. But I've seen a lot of people use them. They're pretty convenient. You just hook on the fish and tie to your kayak. But what I found out is maybe a seal might grab your fish and, you know, maybe you'll get your kayak tipped because of that. So I'm always kind of leery about that. And at the same time, when I'm moving to another spot, I tend to forget to lift up the fish, which drags my kayak, and I'm going like, you know, going in circles. But these are pretty much bomb-proof. They're very offers you a quick way to store your fish, keep the fish in the water, keep it fresh. All right. All right, you're gonna need kayak lights. This is made by Yak Attack. You simply screw in that top part here, and the light comes on. It has a flag for visibility. It has a track mount on the bottom as well. Okay, and this is about $100, $99 on Amazon. But you can make your own, like I do right here. The bulb is fairly cheap. You get this in a set, about maybe $10 for 3 or 4. PVC pipe, probably about, you know, 99 cents, maybe less. This is a 1/2 inch. And then your wires and then I glued some reflective tape on there, and I plan on moving the orange flag from the Kayak, from the Yak Attack to here, so that way make it more visible. But you do need a stern light for your kayak, especially at night and in foggy condition. Okay, Coast Guard requires that. And to mount it, it's pretty easy. I actually mounted a flag holder on my kayak in the back, so all I gotta do is just like put it right in, screw it on, and then that's it. And the light, I prefer my own because the Yak Attack is not very bright. It's only about maybe 80 to probably no more than 100 lumens. But this sucker is equivalent to 100 watts. So this sucker is pretty dang bright. It's much brighter than the Yak Attack. So I made my own, and that's the main reason why I made my own, because I wanted to be more bright so you stay more visible. And then of course you got your rod holders, Yak Attack rod holders. I like Yak Attack, they're pretty awesome. This is a bazooka style. And then you got this style too, right here. Put your rod in there and you just lock this collar. This one does not have a lock, but it works pretty well too, okay? So rod holders. And you also might want to get a fish finder with GPS. GPS is pretty important because sometimes in the ocean, you know, the fog rolls in, you don't know where you're at, you lose your bearing. So having GPS is very, very important. You also want to have front nav lights or red and green lights. Those are required as well for your kayak in inclement weather, nighttime, or fog. All right, so for your electronics, if you get batteries for your electronics, I highly recommend you get the lithium iron phosphate battery because they last much longer and they weigh about half the weight of lead acid, okay? All right, let me go back a little bit and talk about the VHF radios, especially with the squelch setting. Now, I've seen, when I communicate with people, I'm not sure what it is, but it's really difficult to hear people in my group. Some are good at it, but most of the time, 8 out of 10 times, I don't get any response. So when you are using your VHF radio, you know, this is PTT, push to talk. You have to make sure you press it firmly, you know, not on the side, not on the top, just like put your whole finger on that button and push it. And then bring it up to your face and just talk, all right? Not far away or somewhere on, you know, far away from you where your voice won't reach the mic. So push it firm, hold it, and then talk. And then when you're done, release it. And one important thing is a squelch setting. It's really important you know how to set the squelch on your radio. So for this one, turn that on. The squelch is just right here. So you can see that sound, that's just background noise. Okay? So we don't want to hear that. If you hear that noise, don't communicate. You have to make sure you turn it down. Squelch, what it does is it's just a setting that allows only audio communication in. It just filters out background noise. When you hear that sound, it's just, you know, when you talk, you can't hear anything. Your party can't hear you. So, you know your VHF radio. Learn how to operate it, okay? Because this is pretty much your lifeline. Okay, it's very, very important, all right? All right, guys, so I hope you found this video useful. For those newcomers who are starting to get gear or think about going ocean fishing, I hope you do come with us sometime because it is a lot of fun. It's just awesome being out there fishing with, you know, friends, catching big lingcod, rockfish. It's just awesome. It's a whole different experience. I think it's much better than freshwater. Okay, that's just my opinion. All right, so hope you find it useful. Have fun fishing, tight lines.